stress. I think that it's a basic human thing to experience it and hate it. But as a person with borderline, I've noticed that I can't really handle it. And I just recently begun to understand that there is a strong connection between poor stress handling and borderline. Basically, borderline makes everything, or rather stress makes everything borderline related really, really bad. Every thing I do to control myself, to control problematic things with my borderline is undermined really, really badly with stress. And I often basically panic from stress. And it doesn't really matter if it's a fast and instant stressful thing, or if it's a long slow burn. It's simply bad all the time. And people might think, well, it's like that for everyone. Stress is bad for everyone. Yeah, sure, it is. I'm not trying to say that stress is something that only borderline people handle badly. I think a lot, or even most people do probably. But people should be aware that if you have borderline, or if you know someone who have borderline, the reason that they might flare up in bad behavior and so on. It's very windy here today. I hope you can hear me. The reason they flare up is stress really triggers everything bad about borderline. There's a lot of science on this, even suggesting neurological differences and so on. Even further, proving the point that borderline is not just a response to trauma and something like that. It is connected more deeply to who we are as a person. That some people probably have a tendency to develop borderline and others don't. Irregardless of the events in their life. And yeah, I also noticed many times that I've intentionally tried to avoid stress in a way that I've not perhaps understood before, of course, because I didn't understand that I had a borderline. But now when I do understand I have borderline, I can see the dots connecting. I can see and realize, okay, that's why when you experience this very stressful situation, it was like basically jumping into the deep end of a pool and just sinking, and you couldn't really handle things, especially because you didn't have any tools to handle it. I've really experienced incredibly strong stressful situations since then. Not in the same way, not stressful, but I've experienced very painful situations. Not really the same thing in my book, but there's of course similarities. But it could also be that I'm much better at handling stress now, so situations that might have led to me sinking, they don't anymore, because I step away. And I just recently contemplated this when was this friendly competition going on a game of Kahoot where my teammates said, "We are very competitive. How about you?" And I said, "Nope, I'm not." And then I realized this is probably me being very defensive, a defensive reaction, because I really ain't competitive. And I feel a very strong inclination to step really far away from any feelings of competition where I'm getting emotionally involved in a competition. I instinctively try to avoid this because I know that it probably will trigger things. And I mean, life is filled with things where it's difficult to avoid stress, things out of your control. In your work, in your love life, in your social things, constantly there are things you can't handle and control that is happening to no fault of your own. But all friendly games, all friendly competitions, they are. You can control it. You can control how you react and you respond. And I will not allow myself to be carried away and care about any competition. And that might trigger some people. I noticed that. I noticed my teammate looked at me. Okay, you don't really care. Well, no, I don't. It's just a quiz. We are doing a quiz. Why should I care? I mean, it's fun if we win, but I won't care because it doesn't matter. It's not like this important exam where you have to care. I mean, those are really painful for me because I try to find mental loopholes all the time in those where I can avoid getting stressed out. Like, hey, it doesn't matter if you fail because there's always a second date where you can do a retrial of this test. I try to motivate myself with that all the time, fully aware of the implications that this can do with motivation. Because I sometimes struggle to get off my ass and study for an exam. Because, knowing that there is a second chance undermines some motivation. It does. For sure, it does. But I have to weigh this against the other thing, what stress does to me. And it's a bad enemy. And I'm not just talking mentally. I'm physically hurting. I have a tendency to develop ulcers, ileus, and such things. It is physically dangerous for me with stress. I can feel it. I can feel like, I don't know if it is heart issues and stuff like that, but I feel pain in my chest if I stress too much. So I try to avoid stress in all cases I can, because stress finds me, stress hunts me down, and it will knock me over and over again, even if I try to avoid it. So looking for it, that's just moronic. That said, I mean, there's the simple fact that the more you do a thing, the less it stresses you as well. I know that. I'm not stupid. So I also, paradoxically, try to challenge myself sometimes. To challenge things that stressed me in the past and not just give in to the things that triggers me. I mean, when we talked in class recently, there's a lot of people that got all stressed out from an upcoming presentation we are obliged to do. We need to do a presentation on a topic and in front of the class. And some people are having nightmares about this already. I mean, we're talking about a thing happening in like 7 or 8 weeks, and they are already having nightmares. And I remember hey, was the same for you. But I really don't care anymore. And one of the reasons I don't care anymore is not me just getting older and caring less. It is the simple fact that I'm feeling more secure in talking about things. This channel, even if I'm not talking to an audience here, I am talking to an audience here, but they are not visible to me. But it gives me a training, an exercise in speaking. And I also have this podcast, not about this topic at all, and I won't connect the two, but I've talked on this podcast for about 2 years' time. It's a Swedish podcast also. And I've gained a lot of experience in talking this way. So I know that I can talk. I can speak in front of an audience. And especially I can do this fairly well in Swedish, of course, because it is my native language. This has distressed me on this otherwise nightmarish thing for me to speak in front of people. And I realize that I am the things you imagine, the things you stress out about when you talk to people, in front of people, are 99% in your mind. Your stress levels are often not shown on the outside. And I'm taking hold of this thought, and it gives me comfort knowing this, that hey, people usually don't see that you're stressed. Remember that. Remember that when you feel stressed. That many times the reason you fall into stress and it gets worse and worse is because you imagine that people see it and people are noticing that in the same manner you are feeling it. And that's just not the case. People don't see your inside, and they see your outside. So it's not going to be that visible. And hey, it's okay if you stutter and you lose track and you have to look at other things. That's not at all important. And these things have helped me greatly with overcoming this fear of speaking in front of people. And I wish I could explain this to my younger classmates, because most people in my class are a lot younger than me. They are in their early 30s or late 20s. And I was a nervous wreck at that age. Really, really hated talking in front of people. I could basically throw up, and the ulcers were a sure thing to happen. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I'm going to ride on my age, on my older age, and the fact that people don't expect me to be afraid, and that gives me strength. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is strange things, but I constantly seek those. That's the point of this. I constantly look for things that de-stresses me in all manners where I usually become stressed. I've experienced a lot of times in my life where people have actually been annoyed with me because I didn't care. I tried to explain to them, well, yeah, I would care if I allowed myself, but I won't, because there's no point in it. Me stressing out won't fix anything. And oops, video. The wind there is really strong. Yeah, it wouldn't really matter if I stressed out. Nothing would be better for this. Nothing. But some people, they judge you by how you react. If you don't react in a certain way, they will see, well, that's a cynic. He doesn't care. He doesn't get emotional like I do about things. Well, thanks for projecting. I mean, I might get emotional actually, but I do my best to not show it. And I do my best to not live and dwell in it and dig deeper into it, if you know what I mean. That's what I do. That's my motto in life, is to be stoic about things. Stoic about the things that I can't affect, the things I can't change, the things that won't be better from me getting emotional. Those things are just your enemy to become more emotional about. And that doesn't matter if you have borderline or not, but it matters especially if you have borderline and you have emotional disturbance issues, because that is what borderline is, an inability to handle emotions in a very good and healthy way. So I'm sorry if I don't act and react like you want me to, because that is because stress literally kills people like me. It does. It is extremely harmful with stress in every way for everyone, and especially for people with borderline. It's not rocket science explaining this, but I've noticed many times that people just don't get it. So, stress. It is a real killer, and stay away from it. Learn how to handle it, and learn how to don't care about things that don't matter. Because you won't change the world because you weep with the world, because you feel bad for the world. You won't. We are not suitable for being the conscience of the world, we borderline people. We go down, we drown in this. So stay away from it for your own sake. You're better off, and the world is better off with you being healthy and handling things. And the path to this is not caring about some things, actually, like a game of Kahoot. So, anyways, this is the Borderline Man signing off.